Boston College football must hire Bill O'Brien or Jason Candle.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston Colleg Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, Boston College Nation. This is AJ Black, publisher of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 network. Every day here at Locked On BC, we do a daily Boston College podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more win. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So lots of different options now that Jeff Hafley is out. Boston College lost their head coach on Wednesday night, and there have been names thrown out everywhere. You turn and you got Matt Zenitz of 247. You have the guys on On3. You've got Bruce Feldman. Everyone has their choices, and I'm here to tell you today who I think are the two names Boston College should be targeting that are realistic options and would fit the needs of what Boston College has as a unique program in kind of a little niche in the ACC. The first coach that I think would be a home run for Boston College is Ohio State offensive coordinator Bill O'Brien. Now, little history here. Bill O'Brien is from the Massachusetts area. He went to St. John's Prep, who's their football coach right now is Brian St. Pierre, Boston College alumni. And he's coached around here. He's lived around here. His family is still in the Boston area. He's got personal reasons to be around here as well that I'm not going to get into. Bill O'Brien has been a successful college coach. Remember, he was the coach after after Paterno lost the whole fiasco there. He came in when there were penalties and whatnot against the Nittany Lions, and he brought them, I think it was to an 8-4 season that first year. Second year, even with scholarship penalties and all that stuff going on, he goes 7-5 and then immediately gets scooped up by the Houston Texans, where he coaches for quite a while before he becomes again an offensive coordinator for the Patriots and for Alabama. So he has a long list of success. He's coached. That checks off a huge box for Boston College. We do not need, I've seen names thrown around like Al Washington. I love Al Washington. I was there when he was a player there, but he's a defensive line coach. Boston College needs a coach that has experience, that has done this. They can't get another Jeff Hafley who's learning on the job. Bill O'Brien won't be learning on the job. He knows what he's doing. He has done this at a high level. If you've been able to do this for the Patriots as an offensive coordinator, but more so as an NFL head coach and a college head coach, and have had success at both, you can do it at Boston College. I trust that he would be able to put together a staff that would meet the needs of this program. I feel he would be the type of coach that would be able to get Thomas Castellanos to buy in and some of the bigger players around him, like Jalen Bradley, the transfer from Texas Tech, Lewis Bond, Kai Robichaux. He's an offensive-minded coach, so all of those guys will buy in. Hopefully you can keep a guy like Ozzie Trapilo with a coach like him. So I like him because, and you'll see this with my theme with both of the coaches that I picked today, he's an offensive-minded coach. I liked Hafley. I want to see this offense stick together, first of all, but go to that next level. I want them to get a coach that understands how to tap the potential of Thomas Castellanos. Hopefully he stays. We could talk more on another episode coming up soon. I will talk more about that. But all the talent that you have there, whether it's Joseph Griffin, who has kind of floundered the last couple of years, or Lewis Bond, Bill O'Brien would do that. Now, you may ask yourself, why would an offensive coordinator at Ohio State want to come to BC? Would he be interested? Remember, when Jeff Hafley, took this job in 2020, Bill O'Brien had spoken out that he was interested in becoming that head coach job, and BC balked at that. I've heard buzz from some good sources that he's still very interested in this job. Now, the big question with O'Brien is, will BC buck up the money that not only takes to pay him to come here, but also to pay his assistants and to put together a solid assistant pool for Bill O'Brien as well. If he's going to come to Boston College, he is going to need money to buy the staff that he wants. I feel bad for the staff that's here, but I get the impression that if he was to come here, maybe he'll pick one or two guys, but for the most part, he's gonna clean house. New offensive coordinator that's gonna fit his system, new defensive coordinator that fits his philosophy. Bill O'Brien's gonna want more money so that he can get a high-level offensive and defensive coordinator. Boston College is a cheap school, but this is a chance for Boston College to make a splash. Bill O'Brien would be that guy. I think he would be a good fit. He's a guy that would help sell this program. And I think it would be a hire that would prevent the transfer portal collapse that many folks are worried is going to happen. You bring in a guy that has a pedigree like he does, that has the history, that he's been in the league. He can do what Jeff Hafley did. He can sell that he's been in the league. He's been at college level. He knows how to recruit. He knows how to coach. He's been with Nick Saban. He's now been with Ryan Day for a little bit. He's been everywhere. He has a vast array of talent and experience that will allow Boston College to take that next step and not take a step back. That is going to be so critical for these Eagles, is that they don't have to take a step back. You can't bring in a coach, as I said to start this off, that's going to need to learn, that's going to lose things in terms of players, that's going to have to, learn on the job. You can't do that. And that's why I see, and I don't want to get into this, I've seen people tweeting out Matt Hasselbeck, Will Blackman, Luke Kuechly. You can't, I love those guys to death, but they've never coached. And you need a guy that can step in day one and know exactly what he needs to do. And that is what Bill O'Brien can bring. And that is why I think he would be an amazing hire for Boston College. Now, next up, I want to discuss maybe a name that you're not as familiar with, but he checks a lot of boxes off too. He's not as sexy a name. I'll get into who that is in just a moment. Happy Super Bowl to all who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seats on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some super bets. And if you're like me as well, you are a big fan of nachos. I love nachos, and that's why I love my Super Bowl bets at FanDuel too. They go together, nachos and FanDuel. I can tell you they do. And FanDuel has so many ways to end the season with a W or two, or even three, maybe even more than that if you're good. Not only can you bet on who will win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which player will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. Do you think Patrick Mahomes is going to rush for a touchdown? You can make a bet on that. You think Travis Kelce is going to grab more than X amount of yards? You can bet that. It's all up on FanDuel. And two things I really love about FanDuel: it's easy to find your picks, it's easy to put together a parlay, and you can get your winnings very quickly. That's why I love FanDuel. So new customers join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. And thank you all so much who have made Locked On BC your first listen every day. We had an amazing show yesterday with Mitchell Wolf of Eagle Insider, talking all about the Jeff Hafley decision to leave to go to Green Bay. You want to hear our thoughts, go back and listen to it. We talked for 45 minutes. I went a little long on that one, but we had so much we had to get into. Go make sure you check that out. Now, another way Boston College can go about their coaching hiring decision is to look at the G5 level. This is something a lot of programs do to find success. Look at some of the schools around the country. You see Dave Doran and Dave Clawson. These guys all came from smaller programs and became successful in the ACC. So there's no reason Boston College can't replicate that. As I said, if you're talking, my show today is about guys I want guys with experience. I do not want Boston College going out and getting coordinators. I don't want them going with, trying to find the next Deion Sanders. I don't want any of that. I want someone who has done this at, it doesn't matter what level, but has coached and has run a program and has been successful. And if those are the criteria that I am going with, there's one other name that I feel checks that box. And that is Jason Candle, the head coach of the Toledo Rockets. Now, Jason Candle is another name, just like Bill O'Brien, that is known for his offense. He runs typically one of the best offenses in college football, ranking number 9 in rushing offense and number 13 in pass efficiency this fall. And they have a pretty good pass defense, too. He has a 64-33 record, and Toledo has been one of the better schools in the MAC conference the last couple years. So there's no reason to believe that if he was to come to a Boston College, he could have that success. Again, if you're looking for a coach that can maximize what you have, Jason Candle checks that box. Now, the fun part about Candle that maybe be an easier pill for Father Leahy or the Board of Trustees to swallow is he's coming from a program where he's not making as much. I think he's making less than $1 million for Toledo. So that means you could buy him out, pay him more, and get him here on the cheap, which is kind of what Boston College's motto has been. I think he has been a name that I was surprised when Michigan State had their opening that they didn't go that way. Now, they ended up with a very good coach from Oregon State, but BC will never be able to do that kind of move. Like you can't, as a school like Boston College, go and get a Pac-12 sitting head coach and bring him over here. Candle is relatively young. I mean, he's not old. So that's good. He has recruiting chops in some areas that seem to be areas BC has been kind of hitting, which is Michigan. You got guys like Eric Daughtry on your roster, Clive Wilson, excuse me. You have a couple Michigan guys. He's also big in Ohio and Florida. Ohio, maybe he can get into St. Xavier, where Luke Kuechly came from. In Florida, Zay Flowers, there's guys on that roster that have been from Florida. 3 places I think BC could go back in. And then you bring in your assistants that you hope that can hit the DMV area, Georgia, or wherever else he feels that he wants to go. I would argue just to keep Darrell White, and then you can hit Texas and keep a lot of the guys that you have transferred in, but that's a side story. So he's a Midwest guy. That's a little different than Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien, as I said, is a New England guy, which I think some folks think is a good thing. I honestly don't care. I think it's a little overblown. You can get a guy from anywhere, especially if your recruiting model at Boston College is kind of just throwing darts at a map, which is kind of what Hafley did. You get guys from California, you get guys from Florida, Texas, all over the place. Knowing Massachusetts in this area doesn't mean squat. So that means to me that Jason Candle could still be successful here. I like him. I like what he could bring. His buyout is $750,000 according to 247. But if Hafley, I've heard buzz that Hafley might have been having there might be a buyout for Hafley. We have no idea if that actually is true. If there is, that could just go right towards paying him. That's a good thing. So I look at Jason Candle. Is he a better option than Bill O'Brien? No, I don't think so. I think in terms of energizing the fan base and getting folks excited, Bill O'Brien would do more there. I think both coaches, in terms of the other issue with the transfer portal, I think they could both sell a nice bill of goods to some of those offensive playmakers that BC has to keep them here. That I think would be important. They both check off the box that they have experience. Jason Candle has won more than Bill O'Brien, so that's a little bit on his side. I think as a player's coach, I think Candle gets a little bit more there as well. He's well respected. I saw a big quote about that in the 247 article. I think they're both offensive minds. That's something I'm very interested in BC's next head coach. Will they be a good offensive mind? You can bring in good defensive coordinators, but is he an offensive mind? And so he hits that as well. And both are realistic options. You can go out there, the list of ludicrous names I've heard thrown around of even like head coaches that are available are insane. BC's not hiring Bill Belichick. BC's not hiring Pete Carroll. But could BC hire Jason Candle? Absolutely. Could Boston College hire Bill O'Brien? Yes. And that is why at this point, these are the two names that I like. And now I'm going to preface this before we go into segment 3. These are names that have been popping around. There could be other names that pop up as well. I heard Chip Kelly's name being thrown around today. I don't believe that's going to be a realistic option for Boston College, but if he does, maybe he fits in a lot of this. He does fit in a lot of these, the categories of what I want out of a Boston College head coach. I don't think he's realistic right now, but these two are. Now, in my final segment, I'm going to explain why Blake James has to get a guy like Jason Candle or Bill O'Brien, or it could be his head on the chopping block when it comes to the end of this season. I'll explain why in just a moment. Locked on Boston College, AJ Black. As I said, I'm the editor of 247's Eagle Insider, part of the 247 network. If you guys know what 247 is, it's amazing. We have a huge network of insiders from every college you can think of in Division I sports. Most of them are covered. But at BC, we've got myself, Mitchell Wolf, Beacon Street Ball, BC hockey blogger, got Katie O's covering women's basketball. We're going to have baseball coverage coming up. Right now, 60% off while this coaching search is going on. That's for a whole year. You can get an entire year of coverage for I think it's like $30, $33, something like that, for 12 months. And I promise you, you will enjoy the coverage. I get into all sorts of good stuff. We've got big boards. We've got everything up there. Sign up today. End of plug. But right now, let's talk about the man, Blake James. #winning. That's what he says on his tweets. Blake James is Boston College athletic director, and he is in for his biggest moment here as athletic director. Now, he took over after Pat Kraft left during the middle of COVID, I think, to go to Penn State. Pat Kraft had a good run here at Boston College. But since he's come on, Blake James has had the opportunity to make a baseball coach hire. They hired a good one, I think, that's going to be coming up. They hired a women's soccer coach. But both of those pale in comparison to the levity of what he has to do now. BC's premier program, the moneymaker, the one that brings in all the cash, needs a head coach. And he has the pressure to not screw this up. And for Blake James, who has had a history of making good. He's a mixed bag. He hired Mark Richt, who at the time was a 10-win machine, to bring to Miami, and he was good until he got sick. But then he made some not so great hires. He has to do well on this hire. That's why I say a Bill O'Brien or a Jason Campbell is critical for him to hire someone like that. If Blake James can't sell to the board and to whoever else he has to report to that BC needs a very good head coach that's up a level from what they've been doing, he's failing at his job. Because the world of college sports is changing. You have Florida State suing to get out of the ACC. You have UNC sniffing around. You have Clemson who could be complaining. BC needs to show that they're willing to spend money. A guy like Bill O'Brien is a perfect example of how you could do that. But if we go into this hire and Boston College goes out and hires some guy that has no experience because he's least expensive in the path of least resistance, then he's failing. Then this administration is not doing justice to Boston College fans. I've seen names out there, and I don't want to throw names out because some of them are on the staff, of the current staff, but many of them are very underwhelming. And I see the tweets about these coaches as potential candidates, and I can just see the reactions fans would have if BC goes a less expensive route and hires, let's say, I saw Boston.com mention Matt Applebaum. Great offensive line coach. Should he be the next head coach at Boston College, though? No. Absolutely not. No offense to the guy, but he's still got some years to climb up the ladder. He's got to become an offensive coordinator. He's got to do that. I don't want that. A guy like Matt Applebaum would be the safe BC route. You can totally see them doing something like this. But Blake James has to stick up for the fans, the donors, the players, this program, and get a top-notch coach. He's got to sell this program. BC cannot afford to flop on another head coach. It has been 15 years since they've been to an ACC title game, and I'm not expecting them to do that. I'm just expecting them to win more than 7, and we haven't seen that since I think it was Frank Spaziani's first year when he inherited Jeff Jagosinski's team. Blake James has to look outside the box. He needs to go deep and make a big hire. What he did with the baseball program gave me some faith that he can do this. That he's not just a suit and tie, that he does get it. And I don't know, maybe it's just the optimistic side of me, but I feel like he's going to, because if he doesn't, though, things are going to get really nasty around Boston College. You're going to see that transfer portal blow up, and I don't want to see that happen again. This is AJ Black. I'm going to be back again. Guess what, folks? There's so much to talk about, and there's a big news item that just popped tonight that I didn't have enough time to talk about in this episode, and it has to do with Thomas Castellanos. I'm going to drop an episode on Friday morning special for you about BC's quarterback in the Instagram post that he put out that talks about what his future is going to be at in Chestnut Hill and why I think it's important for him and his team. You're going to want to hear my thoughts on that. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247 and check out all my work at Eagle Insider. Please do. It does help out a lot. Hit that like button before you guys head out and subscribe. We had over 6,100 views of our podcast yesterday, which is nuts. Thank you all so much for all of you who have stayed by, who have commented. I haven't had a chance to check out the comment section today, but thank you all. You guys are all out there. You guys are great. And for all of you who have checked us out for the first time, I hope you enjoyed Locked On Boston College, your team every day.